This moment is from around 1910 and shows two men dressed in dark suits and hats standing on the edge of Imperial Avenue in Calexico. The unpaved road stretches into the distance, flanked by small wooden buildings with shaded walkways created by overhanging roofs. On the left side of the street, utility poles line the road, with power lines visible overhead. On Cottonwood Drive in Calexico, circa 1910, horse-drawn carriages moved slowly along a dusty road, heading in opposite directions. Towering trees line both sides, forming a natural corridor that stretched far into the distance. A quiet glimpse into the town's early rhythm and charm. Meanwhile, just a few blocks away, Main Street offered a different glimpse into daily life in Calexico around 1910. A horse-drawn carriage rested in front of a local bakery, its sign reading, "Home Confectionery, Bakery, Soda." Wooden saloon-style storefronts lined the dusty road, while more carriages dotted the background. The unpaved street, marked with horse dung, told the story of a town still rooted in the old rhythms of frontier life. Further out from the heart of town, a lone wagon made its way down a quiet county road in Calexico, circa 1910. The dirt path stretched ahead, flanked on both sides by thick rows of trees. Beyond the trees to the right, open fields hinted at the agricultural promise that would soon define the Imperial Valley. Set against the vast openness of the desert frontier, a one-story home stands quietly on the CM Ranch near Calexico, circa 1910. With its light-coloured roof and generous windows, the house offered shade and comfort amid the harsh climate. A wire fence lines the road out front, while tall trees in the foreground and distant sheds complete this early portrait of rural life on the imperial frontier. In another glimpse of early Calexico, we see a group gathered in front of a one-story brick building, likely a hub of activity in the town's formative years. A wide porch shaded by dark wooden beams wraps around the structure, offering relief from the desert sun. A horse-drawn wagon waits to the left, while another horse is tied to the porch rail. Reminders of a time when horsepower was still literal. The quiet presence of townsfolk on the porch hints at the slower rhythm of life in Calexico. Not far from the heart of town stood the First Methodist Church of Calexico, a modest structure that anchored the community's spiritual life. Small trees dotted the dry earth in the foreground, hinting at the struggle to cultivate beauty in a harsh environment. The church's entrance, set at the front corner beneath a simple tower, welcomed early worshippers seeking faith, fellowship, and a sense of stability in this growing border town. Around 1910, a panoramic view of Calexico captures a quiet yet growing town on the edge of transformation. In the foreground, a line of trees rises just behind a simple wooden fence, while a large, pale structure anchors the right side of the frame. Beyond a dusty road, the town reveals itself. Clusters of small wooden buildings scattered across the desert floor, and farther still, trees trace the horizon, suggesting a community beginning to take root in the vast Imperial Valley. Circa 1910, just south of Calexico, teams of horses plow fertile riverbanks in Mexico. At center, a team moves toward the viewer, cutting through the earth beside the river. To the right, a lone rider watches from a bridge. On the left, two men tend a second team. This quiet labor was part of a bold vision. Records claimed over 300,000 acres in Mexico could be cultivated, all feeding into the promise of Calexico and the Imperial Valley. Around 1910, cowboys of the California and Mexican Land and Cattle Company manage a vast herd near Calexico. At left, two mounted cowboys guide hundreds of cattle across a dry, grassy plain dotted with cow pies. The herd moves steadily through the open land beneath a sky broken only by scattered trees on the horizon. A snapshot of the rugged rhythm of borderland ranching at the dawn of the 20th century. Around 1910, the international boundary between Mexico and the United States is marked by a lone obelisk near Calexico. In the foreground, a muddy road skirts a small pool of water. At center, carved cliff walls stretch across the landscape, rising to a flat plateau where the monument stands tall. Sparse vegetation dots the dry terrain, while distant plateaus and faint mountain ranges frame the horizon, silent witnesses to a divided yet shared land. Around 1910, a river winds near Calexico, its surface shimmering with reflected light as it flows from the foreground and bends into the distance. Dark rocks scatter the sandy shore to the left, while a steep rocky hill rises on the right. In the background, cliffs tower over the water, and atop them, a train stands still, an iron symbol of progress, overlooking the quiet rhythm of the river below. Around 1910, 6 people gather on the porch of the A.M. Schenk residence in Calexico. The modest, dark wooden house stands at center a one-story structure with a wraparound covered porch offering shade from the desert sun. A wire fence encloses the quiet yard, where a few thin trees reach upward from the dry ground. It's a simple scene, yet it captures the everyday life and growing roots of a frontier town on the rise. Mules graze peacefully in an alfalfa field near Calexico. In the foreground, puddles of water glisten among thick green growth, hinting at recent irrigation. The field stretches far into the distance, a sign of the valley's growing agricultural promise. At center, 2 mules lower their heads to feed, undisturbed. Beyond them, rows of small homes line the horizon, early signs of a town taking root in the desert landscape. 3 people, a woman and 2 men, stand along a fence outside the headquarters of the California Development Company in Calexico. They lean casually on the far side of a dusty road, framed by the quiet rhythm of a growing town. Behind them, a large building rises amid a tidy yard dotted with young trees. Farther down the street, more fenced-in properties line the road, hinting at the company's hand in shaping the desert into settlement. Along the US-Mexico border, an irrigation ditch cuts a clear line through the desert, dividing Calexico from Mexicali. Water flows between nations, shaping 2 cities that rose together from the dust. On one side, the United States, on the other, Mexico. Separated by a narrow channel, yet bound by shared land, labor, and ambition. It's a quiet image, captured in a real photo postcard, but it tells the story of how water defined borders and possibilities in the borderlands. A report from the Mexican consul in Calexico tells of a request by the Imperial Valley Land and Irrigation Company to bring in 300 to 400 Chinese laborers to work cotton fields near Cucapá, just outside Mexicali. The consul, concerned about foreign labor in Mexican territory, recommends a different path, urging that Mexican workers be given the opportunity instead. It was a moment that reflected not just labor needs but questions of sovereignty, identity, and control. From dusty roads to quiet fields, Calexico in 1910 was shaped by resilience, determination, and the hope of something lasting. These images capture more than history, they invite us to pause and consider the lives lived here. What did a morning feel like in this border town? How different, or similar, is life today? The landscapes may shift, but the spirit endures. Every frame tells a story of survival, community, and change. Subscribe to explore more voices, moments, and histories from the border.